Right, today I'm going to show you how to bleed brakes. And as I was just recently on the brakes on my van, if you just recently done the brakes on your van, or car or anything you're working on, you may need to bleed them up too. This is the case for me when I've changed the back brake shoes and changed the front pads. I wound the piston back, and now the pedal feels kind of soft, or it feels different. So if you've done any work to the van or your car, or even if you haven't and the pedal feels funny, most likely you'll need to bleed the brakes up. So what we will need for this is, as you can see, brake fluid. This is a self-bleeding kit. It's got a non-return valve on the end, so you can bleed brakes by yourself. You'll need an 8. Spanner is the best, but I can't find the spanner because I think the 8's disappeared into the void where all the 10s usually go. And you'll need a tub, not for a takeaway. This was for it. Well, it was for I think it was a lasagna or something, but just to collect the excess brake fluid in. Brake fluid. There we go, if I can speak. So that's what you'll need. So now if we come around to the front of the vehicle, this is the brake fluid container. You'll see, because it will say it on the cap, it will be the same for most cars or vans. So we can just undo that. Put it there. As you can see at the moment, it's up to the maximum mark. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to fill this up, because when you're pushing the pedal down and you've loosened the bleed nipple, it will be pushing fluid through, and you mustn't let this container get empty, because otherwise you're going to make yourself a lot more trouble and have to do a lot more bleeding with the brakes. So in between, I'll show you how to do it, but you should only ever push the pedal down a few times, right down to the floor, in between checking this reservoir to make sure that you have to top it up and obviously keep it full, and obviously the air content in the pipe of the self-bleeding kit I've shown you earlier. So what I would say to do first is check this and make sure this is full up to the maximum mark before you start. Right, so now we're underneath the vehicle. This is the back brake. We usually, in the order you would like to do it, they usually say the wheels furthest away from the master cylinder in the reservoir first, which is obviously up near the engine. So I'm starting with the back passenger side, well, left side if you're not watching in England, back wheel. As you can see, where the pipe goes in and the nipple above it, that is the bleed nipple, and that is what we'll be undoing. So I'm going to go ahead and undo it now. When you undo it, I'd advise to be careful, because a lot of the time these can be rusted and they're quite soft metal and they're quite easy to round off. I would advise not using the opened end of a spanner, or if you can't get it off with the closed end of a spanner, you could try using a ratchet like I'm doing. Or for example, if it does round off, you can always, there's another technique of getting the size under spanner, size 7 for example, and hitting it on, and then you can get it to turn. But just be careful, because they can be rusted and it can be a real pain in the ass to get off. So I'm going to go ahead and undo this now. As you can see, I've undone it now, and there's serious liquid starting to come out of it. You only need to undo it to about 1/4 of a turn or 1/2 a turn, depending on your vehicle. Don't need to undo it loads, just enough so that the fluid can come out. And I'm going to put this on now. Put this over the end. You can put the clip on. There we go. And then that's on now. Then put your tray there so it collects the excess brake fluid. There we go, and now that's set up and ready. So now I've set up the camera in such a way that you can see the pipe. Sorry, it's not a great view, but now I'm going to go pump the brake pedal a few times, and only a few times, before we can check to see if there's any air in it, or check the reservoir. So I'll be back in a sec. There we go. As you can see, there's now brake fluid in the pipe. I think I'll pump it a few more times. It doesn't look like there's any air in there, so hold on. Yep, to me that looks all good. I can't see any air in the pipe, so I'm going to go ahead now. Normally you could obviously do it up with the pipe on. Sorry, as I was saying, you can normally do it up with the pipe on, but since I didn't have a spanner, obviously I had to use the ratchet. I didn't. I pulled the pipe off. I pinched the bleed nipple up. You only need to pinch it up a little bit. You don't need to do it very tight because they're not very strong metal and you can snap them, so just pinch it up and make sure it's fairly tight. And that is it. And if I show you the pipe, because you probably couldn't see it that well earlier, it's full of brake fluid and there's no air bubbles in there, which is what you want. If in the fluid in the pipe there was air bubbles, then you would know that there is still air in the system and you would have to keep on pumping the pedal to push more fresh brake fluid through. And obviously, as I said, in between every pump of the pedal, which I did do, make sure that you check every few pumps of the pedal, make sure you check the reservoir to make sure that you've got the fluid topped up and never let the reservoir run out. Right, so now I've done both the back wheels. I'm not going to give you the full video on how to do the front wheels because it's exactly the same. It's just that obviously they're drum and these are discs. I'm just going to show you where the bleed nipple is on the discs because it will be generally the same on every disc brake. One thing you might want to do is start the vehicle and turn the wheel so obviously left, so it's facing out like that, which will give you easier access, which is what I'm going to do right now. As I say, yet again, I've just topped up my brake reservoir. As you can see, it's on the maximum mark. Just obviously in between every, say, 3 pumps of the foot pedal, come back and check this because you do not want to let that run out. Right, so you can see I've moved the wheel out, so the bleed nipple on the disc brake is, as you can probably see, just there. Same as the one obviously on the drum brake, and to give you a bit of a bigger picture, so you might be able to see it easier, it's there. So also just realised that on my van it is a 10 on the front, so you may need a 10 as well, just to mix up and make it interesting. Sorry, scratch that. It's size 11 actually, I've just found out, and they've actually seen, well, so it's not LDV because these are Bosch brakes, but put it in quite an awkward place right next to where the actual main brake post comes in, so hopefully it won't be like that on your car, but it will be if you're doing it on an LDV Maxus van. So, but it's possible, I have just done it. So I say, I'm not actually going to show the procedure of bleeding through the brakes because I've already done it, and I've already shown you on the back wheel, and all the bleed nipples are the same thing, so you get the gist. And so say I've done both back wheels. Now I'm doing the left side front wheel, then I'm going to do the right side front wheel, and then that's done. So I've just finished and done all 4 wheels. As you can see, turn this wheel out so it's easy to get to. Obviously, as you're finished, make sure the brake fluid level is topped back up to the maximum level, okay? And make sure that you've done all the bleed nipples up nice and tight. As I say, don't overdo it because they are quite sensitive. And brake fluid itself, it's quite nasty stuff. So if you get it on your hands like I have, probably quite ideal to wash it off quickly. My skin isn't very sensitive, so, but other people, I think it feels like it's burning, and it can also, if you get it on the paintwork, not that my van is very pristine so I don't really care, but you may have a car that you care about, the paintwork can also take paintwork off, so just be careful with brake fluid. Obviously don't drink it, you'd have to be quite a dipshit to do that, but so what I do next, I get back in the car, check the brake pedal, make sure it's nice and solid, start the engine, which I already have. And that's done, and then you can check the pedal. If it's nice and solid and it feels like it should, then you know you've done the right job, and if not, then you may have to bleed it again. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope it helped you.